You don't have to do anything. You don't have to try so hard. I see you. And I know that you're tired. I can see you thinking of ways to make things happen, waiting, or not even waiting. Overthinking, trying to figure out what the full picture is supposed to look like, and forgetting that there's so much happening behind the scenes that you can't see. Welcome to Fireside Stargazer. Here we chat about or channel messages, or even just sit or lay here and have a moment of peace and reflection, and hopefully a little bit of reassurance. Tapping back in to what feels like a stir in the gut. You don't have to figure it all out. And even if you did, you wouldn't have it all figured out. Because you can't possibly see how good it can get, how good it's going to get. And remember to allow yourself to let yourself think about how good it can get instead of staying stuck in trying to figure it out. Aren't you tired? All of these thoughts circling in your head, most of them based on past experiences, trying to recreate themselves in this new space. But here you are on the other side, scattered into a million pieces, trying to build yourself back to the way you used to be, when really you're meant to build something new. And not even that. Right now, it may not even be about building. Right now, we're picking up the pieces. Bit by bit, acknowledging each piece and what it has taught you in this life. Giving gratitude to each piece, because it is taking you, or it has brought you to this next place. Stop giving yourself deadlines and time frames to figure things out. Some places need structure, that is true. But right now, before you enter that place, allow yourself to pick up the pieces. And even before you pick up the pieces, allow yourself to grieve those pieces, to grieve what they were before, that version of you that was you before, now scattered. But they are not lost. Every piece is there, waiting to be rearranged, placed someplace a little different than the last, maybe a lot different than the last. all aiding in your expansion and transformation. So this is your very, very stern and yet hopefully reassuring reminder that you're not supposed to know the next move. Not when you're standing in the middle of the ashes. Let yourself just stand for a minute, or sit, or just be for a minute. Acknowledge where you are, how you're feeling right now, without having some goal in mind, without having some visual of what your life needs to look like even 2 years from now. Put a pause. If you want to stay in bed today and you're someone who often doesn't allow that, someone who often feels the need to be productive, go out on a hike, go out and get that thing at the shop or at the market. This is a gentle reminder to let yourself rest, even for a moment. You are no less responsible for allowing yourself to rest, for taking care of your body, your mind, and spirit. And I am so sorry, I really am, that this has you maybe feeling so overwhelmed. I have a feeling that I'm talking to someone or a group of people who are very organized, or they like to have things structured and organized. They like to have a few steps ahead, if not multiple steps ahead, planned. They need to know the next move, or they have experienced moments in their lives where they knew what the next move was. They just knew. And I'm also here to tell you that that version of you might have known what to do, because it's possible that you were doing those things according to someone else's playbook, doing the steps in someone else's guidebook, in someone else's book. It wasn't your story. Granted, it is a part of your story. And for that, we honor it and give thanks. But it is possible, if you are coming across this message, that the life that you thought you knew how to do before, that you had all the answers to and all the next moves to, that those moves might have already been outlined for you by somebody else. It was a life that you lived according to somebody else, whether that's society saying, you need to do this a certain way, and once you do this thing next, and this is how it goes. This is how it's always been done. But what's happening right now is you've gone off book. You are most likely questioning if this is what you want, if this is how you want to continue living your life. There's more uncertainty than there ever was, and that can make us so uncomfortable. We just want to go back to the comfort of that structure, of that previous playbook, because at least it was instructions that you could read and follow, and you could turn off your mind maybe and just go along with it. And maybe you convinced yourself that this was just going with the flow, until you realized what was happening was you were resisting your flow and following someone else's. And now you're in a different river or different flow. And it's one that is unknown. You know, it's not the straight and narrow. It's not the black and white. It doesn't follow the same patterns we may have been used to all of our lives that people had told us about. You know, we receive so much advice online about how to do certain things, why this is wrong, don't do this if this happens. And this, you know, we receive so much noise that tells us what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right. And in this river, it's not about someone giving you instructions and telling you what to do. It's about learning to trust yourself, learning to trust the process, learning to allow yourself the abundance that you deserve, that you are worthy of, allowing yourself to feel worthy of what is to come, and not always preparing for the worst, as we spoke about in one of the previous videos. Learning to not be so afraid, learning to get out of survival, out of needing to do things to survive. About allowing yourself to receive instead of fight for. And letting yourself feel worthy to receive. And some of you, I can feel the churning in the gut and the headaches in the mind, the dizziness, like this roller coaster of just not knowing where you're supposed to land. And it starts with allowing yourself to stop distracting yourself with productivity, allowing yourself to rest and be the observer of your feelings. Sit behind those feelings if you can. If certain things rise up in your chest, ask yourself, what is that? Why is that there? Be the observer of your emotions. They are what make us human. But also allow yourself to just be in that emotion and observe that emotion. And then when it passes, when it wants to pass, let it pass. And do your best not to force it to pass, because that's what creates the confusion. Why isn't it passing? Why won't it go away? How do I make it go away? I'll go to the gym. I'll go on a hike. I'll go for a swim. I'll go for a shop. And then maybe it'll go away. When it's asking you to just sit with it for a little while, to not force it, to not analyze it, but to just let it untangle in the rest, to let yourself exist behind that emotion, because it won't last forever. And I know when we're in certain emotions, they feel like they're lasting forever, and we just want to get rid of them. But I can also say that some of this will require you to speak your truth, to find your voice. And doing that is not always easy, especially if we grew up in a place where we were taught that our voice, our truth was silly or crazy or out in the clouds or up in the clouds. Especially if some of you were the black sheep of your family, you might not feel safe allowing your voice to take space. So I urge you to speak your truth. Of course, from a place of wholeness, a place of love, rather than a place of fear. Fear often makes us very defensive and reactive. And I know it's like an exercise. It's like lifting weights. Or doing something new, You go up a weight class and then you're sore and you're like, why am I doing this? But then after a while, it gets a little easier. And then you move up again, and then you continue to push your limits. Now, I'm not saying exhaust yourself and wear yourself out, because this is mostly about rest. But some of you might be feeling tired of repressing your voices, your voice, your truth. You might be tired from not expressing yourself authentically, from not being you. And sometimes we think we're speaking our truth, but really we're defending ourselves. Coming from a place of reactivity. Not that it's bad, but also be mindful of where you're spending your energy, is all. That was an interesting channel that came through, but when you get reactive, be mindful of where you're expending that energy and ask yourself, am I speaking my truth or am I defending my truth? They can live side by side, but also you deserve to be in a place where you do not have to defend your truth. You deserve to be in a place where you can speak your truth freely without feeling so tired after. So, my loves, I hope that you find peace as the new year unravels, or wherever you are when you find this. I hope that you can settle that feeling in the gut that stirs and the headaches in the mind. If some of you are most likely experiencing tension headaches, because as I'm saying this, I can feel this little tiny spot in my head pulsing. So remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. Allow yourself to receive, to feel worthy of receiving, instead of always having to fight. Because you deserve that. You deserve to live a life of abundance, of love, and of peace. And I wish for you all of this. It is yours. It has always been yours. You just have to feel worthy of receiving it. And start. Oh, confirmation about expression. Got a bit of a frog in my throat there. Start by allowing yourself to rest in who you are right now in this moment, before even picking up the pieces, before even building and putting yourself back together, before looking into the future, which doesn't even exist. It's this place that we just think of in our minds and create all sorts of narratives and stories and moments of chaos And remember that the things we think about creates what we feel inside. We think about these horrible things happening in the future. Our nervous system doesn't know the difference between what's happening now and what's happening in our heads. So allow yourself, allow your body to rest. Allow your mind to rest, my love. And once again, I wish you love. I wish you peace. I wish you abundance. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful life.